Hello, today we're talking about sepsis and sepsis awareness. We're joined by Colin Graham, Chief Operating Officer at Sepsis Research, an organisation which devotes its time to scientific research and raising awareness about sepsis and sepsis symptoms. Colin, can you just introduce yourself a bit more and give us a bit of background on what you do and what your organisation does?
Elizabeth, yeah, thanks very much. I'm Colin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Sepsis Research, as you said, and my role is really to help the organisation raise awareness of sepsis to the general public, but raise funds as well for scientific research into why some people get so critically ill from sepsis and others don't. And during September, we are going to be having our Awareness Month, capping it off on the 13th of September, which is World Sepsis Day. So all our activities are really going to be promoting sepsis awareness and the signs and symptoms to look out for. And then we'll have a big World Day on the 13th, which started in the United States and it's been brought across the UK. And will highlight sepsis in all its forms. So yeah, that's what this is all about.
And how can people get involved? What kind of things can you do to participate in this Sepsis Awareness Month?
Yeah, so we're asking people to get involved simply by knowing the symptoms. So if you can know the symptoms about what sepsis is. So let me just explain what sepsis actually is. It's your body's overreaction to an infection, and your body spirals out of control, damaging its own tissues and organs. And even with medical care, sepsis can quickly lead to shock, multiple organ failure, and death. So by knowing the symptoms that I'm about to say to you can actually save your life. And these you should really know about are if you suffer from a very high or low temperature, if you've got uncontrolled shivering, confusion, passing less urine than normal, or you've got blotchy or cold hand or feet. And these symptoms are progressing quickly. So when I mean quickly, you've had maybe a temperature, but it's spiked uncontrollably, or you've been very cold, or you've got the shivers, but you've now got you're almost got the rigors. You cannot control that shivering at all, so it's uncontrolled. And these are some of the things that you should look out for. And if you've got any of these, it is a medical emergency, and you should contact your emergency care as quickly as possible. So yeah, these are some of the things to look out for. However, there is other things as well. So rapid breathing, shortness of breath are some of the other things that you might feel is happening at this time.
And do these symptoms tend to get worse rather than better?
Yeah, so normally you'll feel pretty unwell, to start with, right? And then they'll spike, okay? And you'll feel very, very unwell. And by that point, you've got time is something that's is going to be in short supply. We need to get antibiotics into you. We need to get fluids, and we need to get oxygen into you. And the only way that we can do that is by getting you into critical care and going to A&E and going there as quickly as possible. But some of these things that I've mentioned, like high temperature, it could be something completely different. So high temperature, shivering, not passing much urine, blotchy arms and legs, it could be something completely different as well. So doctors, when they're trying to make an assessment if you've got sepsis, have got to take a lot into consideration. And they have a difficult task in trying to determine whether or not it's sepsis and then to administer the antibiotics. But as soon as they know that they believe it's sepsis and they know where the path has come from, where the infection has come from, be it a cut, a graze, are common, but it might be a urinary tract infection, kidney infection. It could come from any of these sources. Once they have an understanding where that is, they'll pump a whole load of antibiotics into you, oxygen and fluids, and hopefully that you have a response to that. What we don't want to do is people to go to hospital and then they pump antibiotics into them no matter what, because that then leads to antibiotic resistance in the future potentially, and the antibiotics, they might not have been needed because actually waiting a bit of time can actually make a big difference to you. But time is critical. And, it does help if we can get antibiotics into you as quickly as possible. But sometimes the doctors will want to take an assessment, do the news scores, making sure that, you've scored very highly on these. They'll maybe take other opinions. They'll take blood samples from you. They'll be desperately trying to understand why you're feeling so unwell, and you will feel very, very unwell at this stage. By this point, you can be fighting for your life, and it's been a matter of hours that it's been to get you to this stage, because you might have actually been quite healthy up to that point. And the other thing to be aware about sepsis is it doesn't matter who you are, be your background, your age, and everything else. It can affect everybody. Predominantly, it's the under fives, and predominantly it's the older population or got an underlying health condition. So these are some of the things to be wary of about sepsis at this time.
That leads me nicely on to the next thing I was going to ask you. Are things a bit different for children, particularly young children? Is there additional things to look out for with babies?
Yeah, so the same things apply. So the high or low temperature, the shivering, the confusion. You won't know if a child's confused, but you'll be able to see it, that they may not feel a bit lethargic or difficulty waking, not having a wet nappy for 12 hours, and they may have a rash or the blotchy hands and skin. But there's some other ones as well. Poor feedings may be an example. Lethargy, vomiting or diarrhea, pale skin or blue lips are some of the things as well. And they may have a rapid heartbeat. But what we'd always say is trust your instincts. As a mum, as a dad, as a parent, a granny, a grandpa, whoever, if you think there's something wrong, your gut feeling will tell you there probably is something wrong. So I would make sure they get checked out as quickly as possible.
So it's true what they say, mother's instinct is one of the most important things, or father's instinct.
I would say so, and all the doctors say they would rather see a child, right, through A&E than you wait too long, and it's taken far too long to see them, and then there's poorer outcomes for people as well. The other thing is that for adults, 50% of the people that do survive sepsis go on to develop psychological and emotional effects, and physical effects. And that can mean that they lose their tips of fingers, bits of nose, their toes, their hands, and everything else. And what we know is that can lead to PTSD. And the last thing we really want is people to be off work for longer periods than they need to be because of all these things as well. So early diagnosis and knowing the symptoms is absolutely vital, because if we can get your help sooner, we may be able to help some of these problems that come around. But it is a big, big problem worldwide. We're not just talking in the UK, this is a problem. We're talking, it's massive. Globally, sepsis kills 11 million people, making it a bigger killer than cancer now, right? And it's the number one preventable cause of death in the world. So, we can do things if we can get good hygiene, people taking vaccines, people cleaning cuts and grazes, and good maternity care and aftercare. We can help in some third world and in other nations as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that will pass away. Approximately 50,000 across the UK lose their lives to sepsis every year. About 4,000 of those are in Scotland. Around 250,000 people will be diagnosed with sepsis this year. So, put that into some perspective. Unfortunately, 5 people will die every hour from sepsis. So these are quite harrowing figures. But what we the whole point about Sepsis Awareness Month and World Sepsis Day is really to get an understanding of sepsis, just to know that it's out there. And if you think you may have it, just ask the question, could this be sepsis? please check me out. Could this be something rather than, I've got the flu? Because a lot of the symptoms that I've said and that are on the screen could be put down to flu-like symptoms. And the last thing we want people to do is think, oh, I've got flu, take 2 paracetamol and go to their bed. And 5-6 hours later, they wake up and they're needing, paramedic help and accident emergency taken, when in actual fact, if they had gone and got medical help sooner, some of these things may not have happened.
So really err on the side of caution. And if you feel something's not right and some of the symptoms, you're experiencing some of the symptoms, don't suffer in silence. Reach out to somebody, NHS 24, A&E, your GP.
Yeah, so, and make sure that your friends and family know what's going on, because they're going to be the first ones that spot it. Because if you're confused and dazed and you're feeling, you're not really, making the right decisions, they're going to be the ones that spot it first of all. So they should be the ones that are looking out for it as well, because you might not be in the right place to actually know you've actually got sepsis, because you're thinking, you're dazed, you've got this confusion, your memory's playing tricks on you at this time, and that's because the infection's taking hold, and what it's doing is all the blood and everything is going towards your vital organs to protect them. All right, and that's why you get the loss of toes, bits of ears, nose, fingers, because the blood is all being brought to try and protect the vital organs.
So confusion is essentially the body's way of protecting itself.
It is. It's putting itself into a state where it's trying to protect the brain, right? And the brain is the most important thing we need to protect, with heart and lungs and the sort of the 5 or 6 vital organs that we all know about. So when doctors are trying to put antibiotics into you and they're trying to save their lives, the last thing they're thinking about is your toes and your hands at that stage.
Course, yes.
They really were just trying to save your life. And, by having antibiotics and fluids inside you, this will make a difference. The issue we've got is antibiotics. There hasn't been very many new antibiotics created for the last 40 odd years. So we've got only a limited number of antibiotics that we can actually use on you. And you can technically use up all the antibiotics that we've actually got. And that's when you become antibiotic resistant. And that's when we have real problems regarding antibiotics and the overuse of antibiotics. So that's something. So if, when we always tell people when they're going to the doctor for a cold, please just don't ask for antibiotics. The doctor will give you them if you absolutely need them. And then if you do need them, make sure you use the full prescription as directed on any of the packaging as directed by your doctor.
Because a lot of infections will be viral and won't be treated.
Absolutely.
With antibiotics. And we have to bear that in mind, that there is a finite number of antibiotics, and we are in the era of antibiotic resistance. And I take it as your organisation, because it is involved and participates in scientific studies, that's part of what you do is finding more about alternative treatments. Is that something that's on the horizon?
So the research that we're currently conducting is more around your genetics, because we know that some people are more susceptible to sepsis due to their genetic makeup. So if we can understand the DNA within our own DNA, we should be able to find why some people are more susceptible to sepsis than others. And if we can then do a simple test, whatever that might look like in the future, be it a blood test, be it a swab down your back of your throat, and then we can assess that very quickly. We can then know if we should really be checking on you more than somebody that's less likely to be susceptible to sepsis. That's the ideal dream. So what we're currently doing is we're working with genomics project at the Roslin Institute in Edinburgh, and we're trying to collect 100,000 samples of blood from critically ill people who are ventilated at this moment in time. We've got over 20,000 already stored. And what we've managed to do is we've managed to find 5 genes of interest at this moment in time. And then this was about a year ago, we found about 5 genes. And then recently we found a further 16 genes of interest as well. And we're now looking to see if we can use that information either to convert drugs that are already in use for other purposes, or try and make new drugs. But making new drugs is very, very expensive. There have been over 150 worldwide studies into sepsis. All of them have been multi-million pound funding, and they haven't found the right thing. And what we believe is, 1, we either don't understand the biology, and 2, we are not really looking at the right thing at the moment. So genetics is the right thing. We're absolutely sure of that. So that's why we're investing so much money into this genetics program at the University of Edinburgh that collects samples from all 216 ICU units across the UK. And that's covering about 5,500 intensive care beds. And they're all signed up to sending us these blood samples from critically ill people. And hopefully the scientists will be able to use that information, those blood samples, to make significant differences in the future.
It sounds like a very sophisticated way of preventing escalation, identifying those most at risk, and making sure that the sepsis 6 pathway, I know that might be shortly be changing, but the protocol is followed, particularly for those most at risk.
Yes, the Sepsis 6 protocol is still there and will still be used. It was very simple. You followed the 6 steps. Now it's more. Now it's not wait and see, but it's more it's more like we need to get more information before we put antibiotics into you. So if we know that you are very sick with it, you will get antibiotics, oxygen fluids, etc., into your body very, very quickly. However, if there's any doubt, it sometimes might be easier just to wait a short period of time, constant assess, find out more information, take bloods, take oxygen levels, do all the things that they would normally do in ICU, and then make a judgment call, which is the best antibiotic to give you, rather than a generic antibiotic.
Yes, rather than broad
spectrum. Broad spectrum.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, particularly because you can get rapid blood results, which will show infection markers, which will show whether there's, and presumably if you have sepsis, your bloods will be quite clear and indicating that there's infection going on.
Yeah, so that's, all of these things are vital and gives the doctors more information. That's all they need is more information. The more information they can have, they can make a decision on what should be, what they should do. And that's all we're trying to do, is give them the best opportunity to find out what is wrong with your body. And if patients can understand that, yes, they've had a cut or a graze, or they've got a viral infection, or they've got a urinary tract infection, and they can tell paramedics or doctors this has happened, these are vital things that they will be checking out and looking for. But sometimes we can't find the actual where the infection has come from, and that makes it really, really difficult. And really difficult because children often don't speak. They're very young, so trying to find sepsis in children, it can be quite tricky, and doctors find it difficult themselves. It's not easy for them to actually find the source themselves.
Of course, it is. It would be tricky, particularly in infants, and somebody that you can't take a history, because presumably some of the people they'll get and receive won't be able to talk because they're so past the point of being able to talk because they're so unwell. And that goes back to your original point, tell your family, because your family might be able to give a history to paramedics, to receiving doctors, and that could be critical.
All of that's critical. That's why you've got to inform as many people as possible of your history, your medical history. So if you are, sometimes people will be away on holiday and they're out the country, so they're not going to the usual doctor, or they're going to the normal hospital, it's taking that information with you, so you can pass it on. Would make their lives a lot easier, and also the medics that are treating you, it'll make their lives a wee bit easier as well. The good thing in Scotland is there's been a lot of work around this area. So the Scottish Government have been doing a lot about the patient safety programme, and sepsis has been part of that patient safety, and the deteriorating patient group have been working very hard to make sure that doctors, nurses, paramedics and anybody else knows about this. And Scottish Government have invested into a nationwide campaign this year. So you're about to see TV adverts on STV and right across Scotland. You're going to see posters on trains. You're going to see billboard signage. You're going to see a lot of social media, and we've got podcasts as well that are telling real life stories about people that have had sepsis or been affected by sepsis. And all of this is going to happen in September because it is Sepsis Awareness Month, and there's a big focus on shining a light on sepsis during that month. So yeah, it's an important month for us. It is very vital, and the only thing that we really need is funding to actually allow us to carry on our research or carry on our awareness campaigning. So, fundraising is absolutely vital. We don't receive grants from the National Lottery. We don't receive the sort of the gifts and wills because our sepsis is sometimes seen as, some people call it the car crash syndrome. When you're here today, gone tomorrow, so you've never had the time to write a will or get your financials in some sort of place where it's can be easily sorted out. So we don't get that money. So we rely on individuals, we rely on trusts, and we rely on the general public to raise the funds for us. So yeah, anything you can do, it'd be great if you could go to our website at sepsisresearch.org.uk and sign up, or if you've got a Just Giving page, create one, and we'll happily send you t-shirts, balloons, all sorts of awareness materials. Bake sales are encouraged, anything at all. And we're really trying to focus on the number 5, because there's 5 symptoms. 5 people die every hour from sepsis. So anything you can do with 5. So that could be run 5K. And I understand, Elizabeth, you might have signed up for something.
Yes, I have signed up to 5K a day, either running, cycling, or rowing in the gym, not rowing on the loch or anything. I'm not that adventurous, but I'm doing that 5K a day for September. I am very anxious about it all, but it's for a very good cause, as you've explained. So if anybody wants to sponsor me or give to my Just Giving page, we can get details of that and put that up later on.
Well, thank you for doing that. So anything to do with 5, so it could be a 5-question quiz, it could be 5-a-side football, it could be climb 5 mountains, it could be swim 5 miles, it could be whatever you want.
5 p.m. cocktails, I saw that on your
5
fundraiser.
p.m. cocktails, it can be absolutely anything. And don't stop at 5. If you want to raise £5,000, we'd be absolutely delighted, as well as we're raising £5 for the charity. So whatever it is, whether or not you want to get involved individually, your company wants to get involved, or you want to get your groups of families or your support networks that you're out there, or any groups and associations that you might be associated with, we'd be delighted if you do something in September for Sepsis Awareness Month, and in particular the 13th of September, which is World Sepsis Day. So there's a date to have in your diary.
Definitely, and some great ideas, and I'm sure there's lots of things that people could be doing, and I'm sure people will want to get involved for such a worthwhile cause. So thank you very much, Colin, for your time today. It's been really interesting, and I think what you're doing is going to help a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you.